Thank you, everyone. I'm Darren. I'm the head of innovation here at Unbound Bahrain, and it's really great to be here with Wael, who is going to share some of the story from his business, from starting out through to what they've learned in the 11 years that they've been going. So if I could just start by
Okay.
introducing themselves.
Can you hear me, guys? Well, thank you for staying here and being at this session. I am so happy. This is my first time in Bahrain, and I'm so keen to explore this beautiful country. Hopefully, maybe it's going to be our next destination to expand. My name is Wael Attili. I'm one of the co-founder of a company called Kharabeesh, and don't ask me why we called it Kharabeesh. It was a long time ago when we were young and spontaneous. And basically, Kharabeesh is a digital media company. We started back in 2008, and we've been with the development, like how the whole industry since 2008 until now. We've witnessed all the changes and dynamics of this industry throughout the 11 years.
And like you say, and founding in 2008, that's when digital media was really just starting to take off. So where did the idea come from to set up?
Well, it's actually started during the blogging, when the 2.0, Web 2.0 started, and we started to see a new generation of blogger. Me, myself, was a blogger. And the idea and the notion of the desire to create content freely this is exactly where the concept of Kharabeesh started.
So
The
really
idea of how can freely create content.
so encouraging people to create their
Yeah,
own content and giving them a platform
put
to do
our
that.
shares of knowledge and experiences on the web. That was basically the main driver of how we founded Kharabeesh.
Fantastic. And so the founding team is you very much founded the business to begin with, but over the years it's grown, right?
So yeah, by the way, we're 5 founders, and I remember when we started and we started to raise investment. It's like a nightmare for investors to see 5 founders.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, you're not gonna stay. But till now, 11 years, we are still 5 working founders. Nothing changed. So that was one of the biggest challenges that we proved. Sometimes it can work out, but it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all. Again, when we started back in 2008, we didn't actually have any clue about entrepreneurship, about the ecosystem, about, there's something called investment. We just wanted to open our own business, and it wasn't our first trial. We, as 5 founders, we had our own shares of, finding our own companies and failures until we came together again and started Kharabeesh, the story of Kharabeesh. And we were self-funded until from 2008 to 2010.
Yeah.
This is where we joined Endeavor Jordan. And since that turning point, everything has changed.
And what kind of role do you feel that Endeavor played? Like as 5 first-time entrepreneurs, is that right?
Yeah.
What did Endeavor set you up for?
Well, basically, when we joined Endeavor, we started to understand what is entrepreneurship is about. Okay, and running a business is not just like doing the thing that you love without calculating, cost. And we started to learn actually the basics of finance
Of the business.
of the business, and how to develop a business model, and how to develop a proper structure for your operation and company and organizational structure, and how to, and the concept of investment by itself. It wasn't known for us. What does it mean for an investor to come in and take a share equity, and what is the value of that, and how to scale your business? It just moved us from honestly a naive entrepreneurs into a really visionary entrepreneurs, and taking a much bigger scale of what possibly we can do.
And of course, if you're 5 founders and you're going through that educational process of what a business is, to anyone that's setting up their own business and they're figuring out, is it a friend or is it a co-founder, what what came out from the 5 founders going through that process? Was there clear roles for individuals within the business, or?
Well, yeah. At the beginning, the relationship between founder is like marriage, okay, and it's not an easy kind of relationship to manage. It's very important because 70% of failures goes from disagreement between founders.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, when investors are investing in a company, they don't look at the business model. They don't look at, they look at the business model, but it's not. They are not investing in the company. They are investing in the founders.
Yes.
So the synergy and the founders themselves are the core of each company.
Yeah.
And this is very important for any entrepreneur to understand really well. Because when we sign an agreement with an investor, there is a lock-up. You cannot have a plan B.
Yeah.
You don't, if the investor sees you with a plan B, he will not trust you and he will not put his money with you. So you have to be fully dedicated, and you have to prove to them that you as a founder has to have a synergy between each other. Now, by the time we had to take many roles, during my 11 years, I took so many roles, from being a CEO to being to let go of being a CEO and giving it to my partner in different stages, and we took many hats and many roles according to the stage of the company where we find suitable, and also according to our personal passion. It took us some time to stabilize this,
Yep.
okay, but we've had our ups and downs on that, and it wasn't easy process for the founders, emotionally and physically. Actually, it was a very hard learning curve for us.
I think when we were speaking just before coming on stage just now as well, we were talking about kind of how Endeavour helped you understand the role that those sort of programs can play in somewhere where it's nascent, like here in Bahrain. But also when you got that first investment, the lessons didn't stop at Endeavour, they continued, and you learned a lot with that first investment, right?
Yes, so basically, actually, I'm going to be honest, Endeavour helped us take our first investment, angel investment, especially when we started talking about evaluation or valuation of the company, okay? So they helped us how to project this, they helped us build a proper financial, proper structure at that time, and they introduced us to the investors who are basically still today supporting us on every single round, and actually also they help you, or at least mentorship helps you to understand the stage your company is in, because believe me, companies are like a human being. Each stage has its own dynamics and had its own let's say definition by itself. Yeah. Like for example, when you talk about startups, in startups the level of innovation is really high versus monetization. So the focus of startups at early stage goes to innovation rather than monetization. But when you move to the scale up stage, then the more focus will go into monetization versus innovation is going to go and become less and less. And this change, sometimes it has its own emotional impact on founders. And sometimes a lot of founders, they don't like it, they just stop at that road, they want to find something else. And how to flip from innovation to monetization, this is one of the hardest things that a founder could do.
In the future stage earlier today, there was a discussion about a startup is only a startup until it's got its business model. Yeah. The moment you've got your business model, you can start to scale. Starting from Jordan, and then scaling into new markets across the kind of Gulf community, what were the kind of hurdles that you felt that were experienced just in entering those new markets, trying to understand whether you could set up teams there and grow that way?
Yeah, so actually, yes, we started in Jordan, but since the day one, we wanted to be a pan-Arab company. One of the things that I would like to highlight is basically when you get investment, you think that it's going to be easy for you to scale, and it's easy for you to convert this investment into revenue and continue on. The mistake that we did in Kharabeesh, and we did it so many times, is basically when we get this, when we get the investment, we completely expand the operation without thinking about expanding our monetization and getting revenue instead. So we hire and we scale, but our revenue did not scale with it. Yeah. And we ended up spending all the money and then hit the wall. And it happens to us so many times. So my advice to any startup, to any high, make sure that you guys scale in a very planned and cautious way, in a way that you scale your revenue more than you scale your operation and cost. So this is a very tricky part, and most of entrepreneurs face is basically when they bring investment into their company, their cost scale up, but their revenue don't. So we're back to square one, and sometimes we're back to a much harder position than we started.
I think that's a really valuable lesson. A lot of founders think that they can scale and scale and scale, but they forget about the sustainability.
Especially in our region, because setting up in different countries is not easy as we think of. Like we started an office in Egypt back in 2010, and in Tunisia back in 2010 as well. This is the first two offices we opened after Amman, and we couldn't sustain because simply we couldn't generate business in Egypt and Tunis. Then we started to head into Dubai, and our first office was actually, we registered a company in 2010, but we failed miserably. And we kept 5 years trying to register and to start an operation. It's not, when you talk about scaling in the market, it's not just registering a company and legal entity. It's never been that. Now you can easily register anywhere. You can go to Jordan, to Bahrain, to Saudi, everywhere you can register. The trick is how to lead and generate business. This is where you need to understand. Is basically, is it good market for you? Can you generate businesses? So our strategy has shifted in a different way. So we go to a new market, we start building projects, we start generating revenue, and when we see a momentum, then we go and hop in and register and start an operation.
And those lessons were obviously learned very well. Because
after 10 years, we've learned that, and losing, millions of dollars.
And I think in 2015, you got the kind of seal of approval with your Series A.
Yeah, so in 2015, it took us like a really hard work to understand what do we need from UAE, where we can generate and lead business from UAE, and why do we need to register in UAE. And then at that time, we understood that agencies and brands in the region are based in Dubai. So we hired the proper team who can build bridges between us and the agencies and brands, and we managed to build a good relationship with them and credibility. This is where we jumped in and registered a company in UAE after understanding where we can generate business.
So there's almost this kind of repetition of finding out someone that can help you understand the ecosystem, help you understand where you can do business, and then giving you a little bit of a kind of introduction.
So part of the ecosystem is not just the legal structure and legal setup. Part of it is how to generate business, or what this country, or let's say, what is the benefit or the strategic positioning of this country for your business. Some countries would work for operation, and they would really work as an operation, not as a market. And some countries, they are really good market. So you need to understand, in terms of your business as a startup, if I want to scale in a country, how strategically I'm going to position this country in my scale-up strategy.
So in that sense of figuring out the strategy, what countries are best to go into? What's next? What's next for the business? What's next? Where
exactly. So you need to understand what is next, and for example, now we're looking at Iraq, for example. Iraq is, in terms of digital media, like our business, We work with YouTubers, we work with influencers, we work with digital marketers. And amazingly enough, that Iraq is the second largest market in terms of YouTube consumption after Saudi Arabia, and almost very close to Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
So for us, Iraq is a very interesting market to look at. For example, when you talk about Egypt, Egypt is full of talents, and basically the cost of operation is really reasonable and good. So it's a different how we look at each market from one another.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I believe that is our 15 minutes up. So
thank you so much for hosting me. I hope that it was beneficial and valuable for you guys. And I'm here for today and tomorrow if you need any question.
Perfect.